Hello and welcome to my video lecture describing the first little sample application that's been provided by our text. So this is a screenshot of what the web page will look like when it's rendered. As you can see, it's running off of localhost. So localhost is going to be the default use of your local server. So when you're developing locally, it's going to look like the server name is going to be localhost. So we have here localhost, which is going to reference your root directory. So before we go any further with that, you should have downloaded the files from the author. The default location where those files will go is a file called Murex. Folder called Murex right on your local disk C. In there, you're going to have a PHP MySQL, which is going to have an htdocs file folder with some of these files in it. Obviously, I have all of the files being the instructor, but you'll have the book apps, you'll have EX starts, and you'll have EX solutions. The EX enhancements and the product solutions and the project starts, those are all instructor files. So you should copy these out into the XAMPP htdocs folder. So here, instead of being in Murex PHP MySQL, once you've installed XAMPP, you'll also have an XAMPP folder on your C drive. In your XAMPP folder on your C drive, you will have an htdocs by default. So that's where, this is the folder where your XAMPP Apache server is going to be looking for your projects. So your projects are going to have their own folders. In this case, when we're looking at the applications covered by the chapters in the book, they will be under book apps. So if you look at this slide, you'll notice that the URL is localhost book apps. So localhost is essentially a shortcut to the root directory where all of your projects should be. In this case, that should be in XAMPP htdocs. So when you see localhost, that is localhost, XAMPP htdocs. So that's where your server is, your Apache server by default is going to look for your applications. In this case, the application is under book apps. See that? So localhost book apps, and that's chapter 1 product discount. So if we look, you look under book apps, and then there's chapter 1 product discount. So if you go in there, here are the files that are associated with the chapter 1 product discount project. So we want to manage that using NetBeans. So here we are in NetBeans, and what we're going to do is we are going to add a project. So if we look, you can see that there's already an NB project folder, which means this is already a project that can be managed by NetBeans. So if we go into NetBeans and we click on this third icon, it's going to ask us where that NetBeans project is. In this case, I'm going to drop this down and I'm going to go to my C drive. And I'm going to go to XAMPP, and I'm going to go to htdocs. I'm going to go to book apps. So again, you should have copied, you should have your raw set of files here in the Murex PHP MySQL htdocs. So these you're not going to touch. These you're going to use if you have to go back and re-reference them. Say you make changes and you want to see what it originally looks like. This is where your original copy is going to be. You should copy the folders that are in your Murex PHP MySQL htdocs folder, and you should copy them to the htdocs folder here so that you have them here. Okay, so now I'm in NetBeans. I'm going to the C drive, XAMPP, htdocs, book apps, chapter 1 product discount. So you can see this little icon. This icon means that it's already a NetBeans managed project. Click on that, I click open project. Give it a second, you'll see down here the progress bar will show that it's opening that project. And you'll see eventually up here It's still opening. Takes a minute. So we'll just sit for a second while it opens. Refreshing indexes. And eventually that all stops, and now you've got your project, your PHP project in NetBeans. When you open it up, you'll see that the source files has your display discount PHP, your index HTML, and your main cascading style sheet, all of which should be fairly familiar to you since you all should have taken IT30. So looking at the PowerPoint presentation, you see that our first page of our application is the product discount calculator. And once this form is submitted, it will display the product discount calculator with the result. So here we have slides that go through the HTML file. Unfortunately, it doesn't all fit on one slide here in the PowerPoint presentation. But if we go into NetBeans, we can double click on the index HTML file and see what it looks like. So as you can see, this is .type HTML. This is what denotes this as an HTML5 HTML file. You'll notice that that is a lot smaller than the previous HTML files, the versions of the HTML index files that are out there. The .type's usually a bit longer. HTML5 has stripped all of that out. So we have our HTML tag, which ends at HTML. So everything in between there is the HTML. We've got our header section. We've got our title, which is going to display at the top of the form. So again, if we look at our, if we look here, there's where the title shows up, the product discount calculator. Then we look at the link. This link tells this form what the cascading style sheet is to use for the style of this form. Again, this course is not HTML based. It is not cascading style sheet based. All of that you should have learned in previous courses. We are going to concentrate on the PHP in this course. So here's your body tag. We've got a main section, and then here we've got our header, which is a product discount calculator, which again is going to be this section right here, product discount calculator. There's your header. And then here we've got our form. This is really where the PHP starts. Here it's not, it's still HTML, but this is the action of this form is going to call the display discount PHP file, which is right here. The method that's going to be used is post. For this course, we are always going to use the post method for our forms to send our data back to the server. So here's our display discount PHP file, which we'll look at in just a moment. So here we've got a div tag, and again, this is just using some of the styling from the cascading style sheet. So anything in the cascading style sheet that's associated with the ID data is going to format this section. We have a data label and a text input, which is, in other languages you would refer to as a text box. So this is our text input, and this is our label. Here's another label, another text input, another label, another text input, and then we have a button or a submit input that we're going to see in our HTML file. So here's, again, our second label and our second input. All of our inputs are given names. That's going to be very important later. Notice that all of the names, all of the coding is in lowercase, and I suggest you continue that, except in labels, but all of your inputs should be lowercase. So list price as a name, product description as a name, discount percent as a name. And then we've got our next divider, which uses the ID buttons from the cascading style sheet to format this button. The label, there is no label associated with this. So this is an HTML tag for a non-breaking space. And then our input. So this is really just to take up space. So when we're looking at the result, we want the label to actually take up space to shove the button over to where we want it. And then this is our input type, which is a submit input type, which is a button, and the value is calculate discount. So if we look through that, that's our the main part of this really is the action, which is the display discount PHP, and the post method, That will become very, very familiar to you as we go through the coursework. Our input, the name of this input is going to be product description. This is going to be very important because the value that someone enters into this text is going to go into what's known as a post array. Again, this is going to be very familiar to you later. So this name is very important because that's what we're going to use to reference the value that gets sent to this form using the post array. Again, that sounds very confusing at this point. Take it easy. It's going to be very clear once we move along. So we've got the names of our inputs, and then here our input type submit is the important part. If we look at the cascading style sheet, the cascading style sheet has a body style. So this tells the fonts, the margins, and the padding. Then we have a formatting for the main section. So again, if we go back, we have a main section that has formatting associated with it. We have header 1, we have our form, we have ID sections. So again, if we go back to this, we've got our main, we've got our header 1, that's going to make the color navy. We've got our labels, so how our labels are formatted. As we move down this, that's sort of the HTML file. So then here's our formatting for our data inputs. Here's our formatting for our data spans. Here's our formatting for our input buttons. And here's what happens when we have breaks. And then we have our PHP file. So let's take a look at our display discount PHP file. So again, this looks fairly complicated. So this section is our PHP code. Your PHP code is going to be sectioned off, or it's going to have a tagging associated with question mark PHP. So that means this section right here is going to be your PHP code. This is how we set up variables in PHP. We're going to get into that later on, but just to let you know, this is how we reference the post array. And we've got our product description. So again, this is the name of that input. If you remember that from our index HTML, our product description input has a name. So the name of that is how we are going to reference that from the post array. We're going to take the value out of there and put it into a local variable right here. Right? Very common to name the local variable the same as the input name from the post array. And then we've got our list price, is the value from the input named list price is going to go into our list price local variable. And we're going to do that, the same thing with our discount percent. It's going to go into discount percent. Then what we're going to do is we need to do some calculating. You'll notice that we use / to put in comments. This has no effect on the code. It's simply there. What I like to refer to as leaving breadcrumbs for people so they know, other developers, so they know what's going on. So here's our calculate the discount. So we have another local variable that's going to take on the value associated with the list price times, right? So that little asterisk denotes multiplication, times the discount percent, and then the whole thing is going to be multiplied by 0.01. Notice the semicolon at the end of all of these lines. Every line of PHP code must end in a semicolon. It is not optional. And then we're going to figure out our discount price by taking our list price and subtracting out whatever the discount value was. Then here we're going to apply some formatting. Again, a lot of this is going to be clarified later on, but just so you know what's going on here. So our formatted list price variable is going to take on the value of a $sign. And then this little dot right here is a concatenation operator. So that $sign is going to be concatenated or joined to or added to number format. So there is a function, number format, which is going to take in the list price, and then this is how many decimal points. So we're going to format the discount percent is going to get the percentage symbol added to it, again, concatenation. The discount formatted, again, it's going to have a dollar sign added to the number format, formatted to be 2 decimal points. And we're going to do the same thing with the discount price formatted with formatting the discount price to 2 decimal places. And then we are going to escape the unformatted input. This is, again, a topic we are going to deal with later on. But we are going to use a PHP function called HTML special chars to protect ourselves. And we are going to check out the product description. Suffice to say, at this point, I'm not going to get into what HTML special chars does. We'll do that in later chapters. But just to let you know that it makes sure that what's in product description gets displayed properly. Then, after that, we've got our HTML section of this file. So it's a PHP file because it has PHP code in it. That's why it has to have a PHP file extension. Our index HTML file has no PHP, therefore it can have an HTML file extension. So here's our display discount again, and here's our HTML. So this is the only part that's going to be displayed in the browser. This section is going to get executed by the server, by the Apache server, and it's going to send back nothing but HTML. So here we've got our title, we've got our reference to our cascading style sheet, we've got our header information, and then essentially it's going to recreate for us these labels, but instead of giving us an input box, it's going to have a display. And here we're going to use the echo command of PHP. So notice that this section right here is PHP code. This is PHP code being encapsulated in a span tag to display it properly. And then we've got our echo command echoing out the value that's being stored in the product description escaped. Okay, so this is echoing it out to the screen, which is essentially a PHP command to display information. We're going to do the same thing with the list price, the same thing with the standard discount, the same thing with the discount amount, and the same thing with the discount price, and that is the sample application. What we might want to do is run this. We can run this right from NetBeans, so I can go to run, and what I want to do is I want to set the main project to be my Chapter 1 product discount. Click on that, and then I click my run main project, or I can just hit F6. So when I click that, what it does is it opens up Chrome, which is my default browser, and for some reason I'm getting an issue with this not displaying. So let's do this. Probably, oh, I know what that is. So if I go back into NetBeans, I have to change the run configuration. Again, something we're going to deal with later on. So if I'm going to customize this, I want to make sure that it knows where the index file is. And there's my index HTML file, so I'm going to select that. So it's got my HTML localhost, book apps, Chapter 1 product discount as the project URL. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go back to my browser and close this window, my sad face window. Go back to NetBeans, start this up. And it's not finding my index HTML file. Back to NetBeans. Where's my run configuration? Customize that. My local web server. My book apps. Chapter 1 product discount. All right, well, we'll get back to that. For now, I'm going to right click on the index file. I'm just going to click run, and that should run it. Why is it not loading that up? Gonna try me. Oh, you want to know why that's not working? Wow. So this needs to run PHP. And in order to run PHP, I have to have XAMPP running. I have to have my Apache running, which I don't right now. So now I'm going to go and I go to my XAMPP control panel. You should always have this running, just for now. So I'm going to click Start, and that's going to start up my Apache. You really should set this up, and we'll probably do this in a later tutorial, later lecture. So now I've got my Apache server running, and that's probably good. So now you can see what happens when you don't have your Apache server running. I don't need my SQL running right now, so now I'm going to go and I'm going to run my file, and there's my product discount calculator. Ta-da! So product description, I'm going to type in something like my first, put in the list price is $25. I'm going to give a 5% discount. I'm going to calculate the discount, and there you have my first $25, 5%. The discount amount is $1.25, so that means the discounted price is $23.75. So that should all work properly. And then you can, so that is the PHP file explained. You can run this in Notepad. Again, the idea would be that NetBeans is going to make things a lot easier for us as we go along. If there are any kind of errors or warnings, NetBeans is going to be doing a much better job than something like Notepad++ to do that kind of stuff. So I would always suggest using NetBeans as your integrated development environment. Here's a little note on how to open files in Notepad++. Again, I would suggest not using that. Suggest using NetBeans. So again, you can change styles in Notepad. I really don't want you doing that. Here again is the XAMPP control panel. This looks a little different if you're doing this in on a Mac. Right now I'm working on a PC. So as you can see, you click on the start, which changes it to stop. And this is how you start the XAMPP control panel. Which, you know what? I'm going to make a different video for that. So for now, that is your video lecture describing the product discount application and how it works, the HTML file, the PHP file, using it in NetBeans. And I'm going to do how to start the XAMPP control panel in my next video lecture.